It was just another night, or so you thought. You were ready to rest, to escape the noise, to lay your burdens down for a moment. But what if heaven had circled this very hour on your timeline? What if, while you were preparing to sleep, heaven was preparing to shift your entire destiny? Chosen one, listen closely. You didn't stumble here by accident. God Himself interrupted your routine tonight because the story others wrote about you is about to expire. The tired, apologetic, easy-to-sway version of you they counted on, gone. The quiet one they thought would never rise again, heaven just resurrected. You see, while you were questioning your worth, God was rewriting your chapter. While you were trying to figure out the why, heaven was setting the stage for your reintroduction. Everything that broke you was secretly building you. Every closed door was redirecting you toward divine alignment. This night is not ordinary, it's a heavenly setup. And soon, those who underestimated you will have no idea how to speak to the new you. Because the transformation that's coming isn't small, it's supernatural. You're stepping into the version of yourself that God always saw, long before the world labeled you. If this word hits your spirit, type 777 in the comments. Right now, it's your prophetic confirmation that heaven's plans are unfolding as we speak. And to every beautiful soul who has supported this ministry through super thanks, I want to thank you deeply. Your love and faith are helping spread the word of God to more chosen ones across the world. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel for more divine revelations and spiritual breakthroughs. Stay right here, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what heaven has been planning for this very night, and why nothing in your life will ever be the same again. God's chosen ones, you thought it was just another night, but heaven has other plans. Heaven whispers differently tonight. Nothing seems to answer because the one inside you who used to ask is no longer here. The echo changed its frequency. You've entered a higher resonance where the questions of pain dissolve into the awareness of divine purpose. As written in 2 Corinthians 5:17, old things have passed away, behold, all things have become new. There comes a holy pivot in every calling, a trembling instant where the heart stops pleading, "What's wrong with me?" and finally recognizes, "I was right all along." In that instant, the Spirit no longer begs for signs, it becomes the sign itself. You begin to realize that silence was not God's absence, but His signature, a sacred hush carved into the fabric of your becoming. What once felt like abandonment now feels like initiation. Every unanswered prayer was a chiseling away of illusion, preparing you to host heaven's voice within your own breath. This is that sacred fracture in time. You're not rising to escape the weight of the world, you're synchronizing with heaven's architecture to inhabit it more truthfully. The fog you battled was never a weakness. It was the last veil God permitted before He unveiled your spiritual eyesight. Like in Isaiah 42:16, I will lead the blind by ways they have not known. Along unfamiliar paths I will guide them. Now you are seeing clean, crystalline, sharp as morning dew on the Jordan's banks. Every season of confusion was a divine equation solving itself within your soul. The mist that blinded you was mercy, delaying your vision until your heart could withstand its magnitude. You were not being lost. You were being led through invisible corridors of grace. The light you see now is not new. It's simply the light that was always waiting for your eyes to mature enough to bear it. Those who once misread your silence will tremble before your clarity. Not because you strive, nor because you demand recognition, but because your presence no longer vibrates on the wavelength of falsehood. Romans 12:2 reminds, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And that transformation, that unseen reconfiguration of your soul's frequency, sends ripples through every environment you enter. You carry the quiet gravity of truth now, the kind that bends the room without a word. Every false alliance falls away like dust shaken from sandals. The spirit within you speaks through posture, through presence, through peace that cannot be provoked. You've become the sermon you once sought to hear, the living vibration of redemption itself. You'll begin to notice it subtly. Words lose their power to wound. Conversations that used to anchor you in self-doubt begin to unravel. The rooms that drained you suddenly have no access, as if heaven installed a firewall around your spirit. Have you ever felt that sudden peace, not the absence of battle, but the presence of divine immunity? That's the armor of discernment, invisible but impenetrable. You're no longer reacting to darkness. You're radiating light so bright that shadows can't survive near you. Your soul has shifted from defense to dominion. What once hurt you now teaches you, and what once controlled you now bows to your stillness. As the artist John Ruskin, a master of sacred architecture, once said, "When we build, let us think that we build forever." You are that cathedral in motion, your heart redesigned by celestial hands. The architect is God, and each trial was a chisel stroke, shaping your immortal resonance. Every loss was a stone laid into eternity's foundation. Every tear, a droplet of holy water, blessing the mortar of your strength. When heaven builds, it never constructs quickly. It crafts with eternity in mind. You are that structure, living proof that holiness is not in perfection, but in endurance shaped by divine design. There's a quiet song that echoes this truth, Lux Aeterna by Edward Elgar, where the choir ascends, note by note, not to flee the earth, but to sanctify it. Each chord mirrors your journey, pain resolving into harmony. Like the mighty oak that bends under storm yet grows deeper roots, your spirit has learned endurance through divine pressure. The same God who composed galaxies wrote this symphony through your suffering. Every dissonance in your life was just a prelude to divine resolution. In heaven's orchestra, no note is wasted, even your groans become part of the harmony. You are no longer the listener, you are the song heaven hums when it remembers endurance. And yes, there were antagonists like King Saul, consumed by jealousy when David's anointing shone brighter. His downfall wasn't David's victory, but his refusal to surrender his own calling. That's the fate of those who resist heaven's flow. They drown in the current they tried to control. But let that be a mirror, not a warning, for every Saul reveals a David in the making. Envy cannot touch those anchored in purpose. Bitterness loses grip where gratitude dwells. When you choose blessing over vengeance, you inherit the lineage of kings who rule with mercy. Every time you forgive, you dethrone another Saul in your story. Science itself reflects this mystery. In quantum resonance, when one particle aligns with higher frequency, the entire field reorganizes. That's your spirit now, heaven recalibrating reality through you. This is not metaphor, it is law. Everything in creation responds to order, and you have become that order embodied. You are the tuning fork of heaven's sound, striking frequencies that heal what logic cannot. The universe bends toward your obedience. The fabric of reality hums when you walk in divine alignment. A woman once told me, a quiet florist from a forgotten town, that when she forgave the ones who betrayed her, her flowers began to bloom longer, as if creation itself bowed to her release. It reminded me that heaven's laws are simple. Purity shifts the atmosphere. Forgiveness fertilizes the unseen soil. Her story proves what theology teaches, that grace multiplies where pain is surrendered. Each petal became a parable of resurrection, teaching that beauty does not avoid the wound, it blooms through it. The world itself seems to honor those who live from healed hearts. Maybe that's what's happening to you tonight. Heaven isn't changing your world, it's changing the way the world responds to you. The energy of falsehood can no longer hold you, because your presence has become truth's mirror of truth. Reality bends to the integrity of the one who walks in light. You are no longer a victim of the atmosphere. You are the atmosphere. The room adjusts to your holiness now. Creation recognizes its master through you. You've become evidence that when God inhabits a soul fully, even silence becomes prophecy. So rise, chosen one. You were never misunderstood. You were simply speaking heaven's language too early. Now, the world is finally tuning in. Step forth with the courage of the redeemed. Every wound you carry glows with heaven's handwriting. This is not your ending, it is your unveiling. You are no longer waiting for permission. Heaven has already crowned you in unseen fire. This is the hour where your name echoes through eternity. Stand and let the earth remember who you are. You're not turning cold, you're finally carrying your true temperature. Imagine a tuning fork struck in a crowded hall. It doesn't shout to dominate the noise. It holds a pure note until the chaos reveals itself as chaos. That's you now, a clean frequency in a world of static. Because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. Revelation 3:16. You are done with the gray middle that mutes conviction. Like auroras that silently redraw the northern sky, you radiate a field, not an argument. Basalt cliffs don't negotiate with the ocean, they simply stand, and the waves confess their limits against the rock. Migratory geese keep a perfect V, not by louder wings, but by exact angles of trust, and your life is doing the same, setting a trajectory that gathers the aligned and releases the restless. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27. Your spirit is now that recognizable pitch, and anything unable to resonate either rises to meet it or fades into the honest distance. Here is a searching question for your heart. When your peace speaks, who leans in and who quietly steps back? Your presence is becoming a plumb line in a bent world. Behold, the Lord stood beside a wall built with a plumb line in his hand, Amos 7:7, and your integrity is that vertical certainty dropped through rooms and relationships. Coral reefs don't chase fish. They create habitat by being exquisitely themselves, and life organizes around that steadiness, so does truth around you. Honeybees never publish manifestos. They perform the humble waggle dance, and the hive reorients your obedience is that precise, directional choreography. In the language of physics, resonance does not plead for agreement. It simply vibrates at its natural frequency until other structures phase lock or drift away. Your yes has heat now, your no has architecture, and the in-between cannot breathe in this atmosphere. Is it startling to notice how silence has become your most persuasive sentence? The old training is breaking mercifully, decisively. You were shaped to over-explain what your spirit already knew, to soften edges past the breaking point of truth, to sip diluted connection as if thirst were normal. That conditioning is cracking like ice at first thaw. You're choosing exactness, the sacred geometry of an aligned soul. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. Matthew 5:37. The redwood doesn't apologize for its height. The river salmon doesn't apologize for swimming upstream. Psychology might call this differentiation. Heaven names it obedience. You are granting your discernment legal citizenship in your mouth, no counterfeit visas for counterfeit peace. And where speech once bent to keep false harmony intact, it now stands like tempered glass, transparent, strong, and unwilling to splinter just to keep shards quiet. Let your words carry the tensile strength of covenant. Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Psalm 141:3. And see how boundaries become bridges when truth is the engineer. In acoustics, a pure signal needs no amplification, it needs fidelity. So you tune your inner room like a concert hall, absorbing distortion, diffusing flattery, releasing only what is faithful to the score God wrote in your chest. In ecology, drought-tolerant roots go deeper. Likewise, your relationships are drilling toward aquifers rather than collecting puddles after cheap storms. Exactness is not sharpness, it is stewardship. It is offering water as water, fire as fire, promise as promise, and never mistaking steam for the substance that births it. And since every story needs its cautionary figure, Meet Demas, once a companion to Paul, now remembered for desertion because he loved this present world. 2 Timothy 4:10. His fate is the acoustics of compromise, a note that slides off key until the choir cannot hold it. He reminds us that diluted loyalty corrodes destiny from the inside, quietly, predictably, fatally. Your path rejects that entropy. By naming what is true without embroidery, you deny corrosion of its oxygen. You are learning that mercy without clarity becomes a costume for fear, but mercy with clarity becomes medicine. This is why your yes is a door that actually opens, and your no is a wall that mercifully holds. Rise into your rightful pitch, carry your God-given temperature without apology. Hold the note heaven struck in you until the counterfeits confess themselves and the faithful find formation at your side. This is your hour to speak clean, move clean, live clean. Stand now and let your life ring true. Watch how swiftly peace returns when your words begin to align with your inner knowing. There was resistance, you did not invent it. Some of it smiled at you while sharpening its knives behind laughter. Some of it wore loyalty like perfume, sweet on the surface, poisonous underneath. It was not chaos, it was calibration. You were being refined, not rejected. As Malachi 3:3 says, "He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the sons of Levi." Every silence, every betrayal, every delay was a blacksmith's rhythm: heat, hammer, cool, repeat. Heaven wasn't punishing you, heaven was tempering you. You became the anvil where destiny learned discipline. And have you noticed how peace no longer needs to be chased? It simply arrives when your speech and your spirit vibrate at the same frequency. This harmony is divine physics, resonance between heart and heaven. Psychologists call it congruence. Angels call it truth incarnate. Like a tuning fork struck in perfect pitch, your words no longer echo confusion, they construct order. In architecture, the cornerstone dictates the alignment of the entire cathedral. When you began speaking from what you know rather than what you fear, your life started to straighten like sacred geometry, returning to its true axis. You were refined in those seasons, the way steel learns its strength in fire. Heat did not destroy you, it revealed the pattern in your molecules. When a blacksmith tempers metal, he exposes it to flame again and again, because consistency is born from repetition under pressure. That was your life for a while, heated by betrayal, hammered by misunderstanding, cooled by solitude. Isaiah 43:2 reminds, "When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned." The flames were not your enemy, they were your initiation. I once met a woman named Clara, a widow who restored antique clocks. She told me, "Every clock I repair must first be dismantled until it looks broken beyond repair. Only then can I rebuild it to keep time again." Her hands trembled with reverence as she said it. That's what heaven did to you, took you apart so you could measure eternity, not hours. Clara never read theology, yet her craft preached the gospel of restoration more profoundly than many pulpits. Until the blade holds an edge, nothing can dull it. You once called those seasons setbacks, heaven called them forging. Romans 8:28 promises, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him." Every loss was a strike shaping your edge, every disappointment a pressure point producing precision. Metallurgy teaches that impurities rise to the surface under heat. Spiritually, so do false alliances and hollow intentions. The process hurt because it revealed what could not survive your next level. Now you carry a steadiness that confuses chaos. You no longer negotiate with half-truths just to keep the atmosphere calm. James 1:8 calls such a man double-minded and unstable in all his ways. You are no longer divided. You've become a single sharp instrument in the hands of the divine craftsman. What others call hardness is not cruelty, it is clarity. Like a surgeon's scalpel or a compass needle, precision is not aggression, it is purpose refined. Nature itself bears witness to this truth. The diamond doesn't sparkle until carbon endures unthinkable pressure beneath the earth. The eagle doesn't learn flight in comfort. It's pushed from the nest so that gravity becomes its tutor. And when the volcano releases molten fire, it's not destruction, it's creation in progress, the soil preparing for forests yet unseen. You are living that same divine geology. Your roots are deeper than your ruins. There was a man, once a humble bricklayer named Elias, who told me, "I never knew bricks could sing until I heard the sound of a cathedral wall under construction. Each tap of the hammer has a tone of praise." I never forgot that. Maybe your pain was the percussion of heaven building its next masterpiece through you. The rhythm was not random, it was architectural worship. And if you need a warning, recall Pharaoh, whose heart hardened in the presence of divine correction. Exodus 9:12 tells us, "The Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, but his hardness was pride, not purity. He resisted the fire instead of being refined by it, and his empire crumbled in the waters that once held his power." That is the difference between steel and stone. One becomes sharper in flame, the other shatters. You chose refinement, and for that, heaven chose you. This is your moment of unveiling. You have passed through the heat, the silence, and the fracture, and now carry a peace that can cut through noise without violence. Your steadiness is not coldness. It is the stillness of a soul that no longer bargains with confusion. Your words now move like light through crystal, unbending, undistorted, holy. Rise, forged one, speak only what matches your knowledge. Live in sync with the architecture of heaven. Let your clarity heal those still walking through the smoke. And when the world asks how you became unbreakable, tell them, "I was not hardened by pain, I was clarified by purpose." It begins quietly, fewer words, cleaner choices, and a rhythm of life that finally stops looping. The same patterns that used to spin like storms suddenly go still. What changed was not them, it was you. The atmosphere rearranged itself around your new frequency. "Be still and know that I am God," says Psalm 46:10, because stillness is the birthplace of transformation. You're no longer a prisoner of repetition, you're the author of divine sequence. The lessons that once arrived as chaos now arrive as choreography. You can trace the order in what used to feel like random suffering, the way a composer hears music in what others call noise. The weight on your shoulders didn't vanish, it evolved. It turned into meaning, the way raw marble carries the potential for sculpture inside its heaviness. What once crushed you now carves you. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. 2 Corinthians 4:17. Every burden has become a blueprint, every delay a design. Can you feel how peace no longer hides at the end of the battle, but hums underneath it? That is what happens when heaven starts teaching you through resonance instead of resistance. What once felt like endless circles now feels like completion. Maturity is not boredom, it is precision. You can finally say, "I see why that closed," and mean it not with bitterness but with reverence. That's what spiritual adulthood looks like, neither ice nor distance, but mastery. The sculptor Auguste Rodin once said, "I choose a block of marble and chop off whatever I don't need." That's what you've become, a living sculpture in progress, cutting away habits, half-truths, and noise that no longer fit your design. The noise didn't stop because it grew tired, it stopped because you stopped feeding it. And something else happens. The atmosphere around you begins to take note. Your name starts to make people adjust their tone. Not because they fear you, but because your presence has become a mirror that reflects their intentions back to them. Proverbs 16:7 whispers, "When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him." Watch how old power dynamics dissolve in your calm. There's a sacred weight to your silence now. It doesn't demand respect, it generates it. This change is visible in subtle ways. You'll see it in their eyes, the pause before they speak, the caution in their words, the way they hesitate before asking for the favors they once assumed were automatic. You're no longer an open gate to chaos. You're a doorway guarded by discernment. Matthew 7-6 says, "Do not give dogs what is holy. Do not throw your pearls before swine." That's not arrogance, it's alignment. You've stopped negotiating your worth with those who never had the authority to price it. There's a strange beauty in this kind of peace. It feels like standing in the middle of a cathedral after the choir has finished, the last note still echoing in the air. In that silence, you realize you're not waiting for the next storm, you've become calm after it. In the 19th century hymn, "Abide with Me" by Henry Light, the lyrics say, "Change and decay in all around I see. O thou who changest not, abide with me." You've entered that truth, unchanging in faith, but flexible in form. I once met a quiet gardener named Tomas in a monastery courtyard. He told me, "Plants don't stop growing when you prune them, they just learn how to grow in the right direction." His words never left me. You've been pruned but not punished, cut back but never cut off. That's how heaven makes space for fruit that lasts. There's a warning in the story of King Nebuchadnezzar, the man who once ruled empires, yet lost his mind when he mistook his glory for God's. His downfall wasn't a punishment but a correction. Daniel 4:37 records his redemption. Those who walk in pride, he is able to humble. That's the difference between the proud and the purified. One builds towers, the other becomes temples. You've chosen the second. Your transformation is scientific as much as spiritual. In physics, when energy stops scattering, it begins to form structure, order, emerges from coherence. That's what your life is now, coherent. You're living proof that when the soul aligns with truth, time itself obeys. The loops stop, the noise falls silent, the story straightens. So rise, chosen one. Don't apologize for your quiet. Don't explain your new stillness. The world is just adjusting to the sound of your clarity. You are the equilibrium, heaven built into the noise. Stand tall in it and let every frequency find its rightful place. That shift isn't pride, it's divine order taking shape within you. You've become costly in the best and holiest way. The currency that grants access to your presence is no longer charm or familiarity. It is honesty, both with you and within themselves. Do not give what is holy to dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine, Jesus said in Matthew 7-6. And now those words have become architecture in your soul. You're not closing doors, you're fortifying sacred gates. Heaven is teaching you discernment as an act of stewardship. Like gold refined in fire, your value has increased not because of pride, but because of purity. Your energy is no longer a marketplace, it's a sanctuary. Some will meet this requirement and astonish you with real transformation. Others will stall, then slowly fade away, unable to withstand the light of truth. John 3:20 says, "Everyone who does wicked things hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed." You're witnessing that scripture unfold in real time. When your light grows, it reveals what was pretending to glow beside you. There's nothing cruel about that. It's calibration, not cruelty. Have you noticed how peace often looks like loss before it looks like freedom? That's heaven pruning your atmosphere for growth that lasts. If someone must shrink the truth to stand next to you, they aren't standing next to you, they're standing next to a costume you no longer wear. You've shed the performance of pleasing, the theater of pretending everything is fine. Ephesians 4:22-24 urges, "Put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life, and put on the new self, created after the likeness of God." This is what you've done. You've unzipped your camouflage. The real you has stepped out of the disguise. Your authenticity has become your armor, and your silence is now a sermon that only the honest can interpret. What's changing inside you is not temporary, it's covenant. It's the eternal agreement between your soul and its source. Hebrews 13:20 speaks of the blood of the eternal covenant that brought back our Lord Jesus from the dead. That same power resurrected your boundaries, your clarity, your sense of holy worth. You will keep your softness, but you'll no longer spend it like spare change. You will lead with kindness, but you'll no longer confuse kindness with permission to be mishandled. That is not hardness, it's holy arithmetic, mercy multiplied by wisdom. Nature preaches this same sermon if you listen closely. The pearl protects its purity by layering over irritation until beauty forms. The cactus blooms brilliantly only when drought forces it to channel water inward. The swan glides across still waters not because it avoids depth, but because it has mastered balance beneath the surface. You are each of these, resilience wrapped in grace. The gentleness remains, but now it's governed by precision. There was a small-town nurse I once met. Her name was Mara. She told me she had stopped saying yes to every emergency that wasn't hers. I realized, she said softly, I can't heal if I'm always bleeding. Her words carried more theology than many sermons. She hadn't become selfish. She had become strategic about her mercy. Heaven calls that maturity. And in the ancient story, there was Ananias and Sapphira, who wore false devotion before Peter, pretending their offering was whole when it wasn't. Acts 5-3, 5 records that their deception cost them everything. The lesson isn't punishment, it's principle. God doesn't bless pretense. Truth is the only currency that sustains covenant. That's why dishonesty no longer has access to you. In the language of physics, your spirit has reached coherence, waves of thought, emotion, and action vibrating in unified rhythm. In architecture, you've shifted from scaffolding to structure no longer under construction, but carrying weight with design. You've become a cathedral of boundaries, the mathematics of mercy carved into human form. So rise, chosen one. Let your yes be holy, your no be honored, and your presence be proof that heaven still refines its vessels by fire. The world will learn kindness can be firm, gentleness can guard, and love can build walls as sacred as its doors. This isn't you becoming tough, it's you becoming true. Accuracy has replaced armor. You're not hard, you're holy in your precision. This is what it feels like when heaven calibrates a soul back to its rightful frequency. Every calling reaches a night when the compass inside finally clicks to true north. Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." Isaiah 30-21. Tonight is that click. The road didn't move, you did. You adjusted your internal coordinates to align with divine geometry. And there's something magnetic about that moment, the invisible shift when destiny stops being a concept and starts being a current. Like the tides responding to the pull of the moon, your spirit is drawn toward alignment with a force far greater than choice, its gravity made of grace. Every decision that used to drain you now directs you. What once required effort now moves with ease, because the map finally matches the terrain. And look at you now, breathing easier, hearing clearer, choosing cleaner. That's alignment, not arrogance. The sky doesn't strain to prove it's vast, it simply is. You've entered that same still confidence. Alignment is heaven's architecture revealed through human rhythm, the sacred symmetry of heart and habit matching heaven's design. In physics, it's called resonant coherence. When vibration and form finally agree, you've become that agreement. Your prayers and your posture now echo the same note. In this space, peace is not an emotion, but an ecosystem. Your very presence recalibrates rooms. You've stopped surviving by reaction and started thriving by intention. What you once called intuition is now spiritual engineering, divine mathematics, balancing what once felt chaotic. Have you realized yet that certainty doesn't shout? It whispers, it hums, it settles like sunlight over water, saying, "You're home." It isn't noisy anymore, it's certain. Like the calm in a cathedral after the choir's last hymn fades, you can sense the divine frequency humming beneath your quiet. Psalm 37:7 says, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him." Stillness has become your strength, patience, your proof. The forward motion of your life no longer sounds like striving, it sounds like surrender in motion. Stillness, you've learned, is not absence, it's authority. It's the soundless roar of trust. The prophets called it the voice of thin silence, 1 Kings 19:12, the whisper that shakes worlds. You're no longer addicted to movement for validation. You now understand that velocity without direction is vanity. The still soul travels further than the restless one because it moves at the speed of purpose, not panic. There's a carpenter named Jonas I once met who said something that never left me. When a beam finally settles into place, he said, the house stops creaking. That's you, settled into spiritual accuracy. The structure of your life has stopped making the noise of instability because you've found the right angles to bear weight without strain. Heaven is the engineer, and your obedience is the blueprint. Jonas's words were more than metaphor, they were mechanics of faith. In architecture, equilibrium isn't achieved through force, it's achieved through perfect distribution of pressure. You've learned the same lesson spiritually. You don't have to carry what grace can distribute. Strength now feels lighter because it's balanced by purpose. And when your life is built squarely on truth, storms may shake the walls, but they can't shift the foundation. Your life is about to read like proof, not theory, not wishful thinking proof. Proof that faith works when tested, proof that integrity holds under pressure, proof that patience pays in full. Romans 5:4 teaches, perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. You've lived that equation. Every test was a theorem written in pain, but solved in peace. This next chapter of your life will read like divine evidence, unspoken but undeniable. The kind of testimony that needs no applause because it breathes revelation. Your story will become a mirror where others finally see that God's timing was never delayed. It was data collection for destiny. The equations of heaven are always balanced in hindsight. You are the solved formula of grace meeting endurance. You don't need to announce this shift. Real transformation doesn't audition. Just keep walking. Matthew 6:1 reminds, do not do your righteous acts before men to be seen by them. Let the results testify louder than your explanations. The people who once needed you confused will call it arrogance. Don't correct them. Clarity threatens the comfortable. The people who once prayed for your strength will call it beautiful. Receive that, because beauty born from endurance is not decoration, it's revelation. Silence has become your sermon. Every step you take radiates a homily written in humility and held together by holiness. The light in you no longer flickers, it focuses. You've become less about proving and more about being, less about explaining and more about existing in truth. And that, in itself, is the loudest testimony heaven could ever write through a human heart. Have you realized how every season that once felt like exile was really training for discernment? The wilderness didn't break you, it tuned you. You've become fluent in heaven's silence. You no longer chase signs because you've become one. The Israelites wandered 40 years, not because God abandoned them, but because he was rewriting their reflexes, turning slaves into sons. You've walked your own 40-year metaphor in a single decade, unlearning reaction, relearning reverence. Now, every desert you pass through has turned into water within you. You carry rivers in your language, wells in your walk, peace in your pulse. There's a subtle moment in the ballet, Giselle, where the dancer holds still in perfect balance before spinning again. Every audience member holds their breath, knowing they're witnessing mastery in motion. That's your spirit right now, still, centered, ready to move again, but only in truth. That stillness is strength disguised as softness. It's poise earned through surrender. You no longer dance for validation, you dance for alignment. The applause of heaven has replaced the noise of crowds. In that sacred pause between motion and meaning, you've learned that purpose never rushes, it remembers. And history leaves us a warning through King Uzziah, who began humbly but grew proud when strength made him forget the source. 2 Chronicles 26-16 says, but after Uzziah became powerful, his pride led to his downfall. His mistake was confusing success with self-sufficiency. You won't repeat that. Your clarity is anchored in gratitude, not ego. You've learned that the moment pride replaces prayer, vision turns into blindness. Humility is not weakness, it's gravitational grounding, keeping your soul from orbiting your own glory. The wisest know that every crown is borrowed light. Your victories will stay clean because they will stay surrendered. In neuroscience, this moment could be called synaptic renewal, when new neural pathways replace the old, and the mind finally aligns with its healed identity. Spiritually, it's sanctification. Emotionally, it's peace with purpose. Alignment is heaven's reward for consistency. This is what being transformed by the renewing of your mind, Romans 12:2, truly looks like in real time. Your thoughts have learned to harmonize with your healed heart. You've stopped looping trauma as memory and started transmuting it as meaning. Your biology now mirrors your belief. Heaven has upgraded your internal software, and your life is the update log, stable, clear, and whole. So, rise, chosen one. You are walking evidence that surrender refines more than struggle ever could. Carry your proof quietly. Let your calm speak miracles. Let your stillness be a sermon that says, faith works, truth holds, patience pays. Those with eyes to see will recognize you not as hardened, but as holy, sharpened by grace, shaped by wisdom, shining with purpose. And when they ask how you endured the breaking, smile and answer, I wasn't breaking, I was being aligned. And the one who brought you here will call it right on time. This is not delay, it's divine timing wrapping itself in precision. Heaven has no early arrivals, only perfect alignments. The vision is yet for an appointed time, says Habakkuk 2-3. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. You are now stepping into what was written for you long before you knew how to ask for it. This is the beginning of your undeniable era, not a chapter of striving, but of standing in the fullness of what's already yours. You have nothing left to prove to be worthy of this moment. Worth was never earned, it was bestowed. You are not working for value anymore, you are working from it. This is heaven's mathematics. Grace precedes greatness, and favor finishes what effort begins. You have choices to uphold now, not validation to chase. That's the difference between ownership and obsession. Luke 16:10 reminds, whoever is faithful in little will be faithful in much. The gift was given freely, but stewardship must now be practiced daily. And look at you, you are ready. You've learned that discipline is not punishment, it's protection for destiny. Every day is a covenant, a renewal of divine trust between who you are and who you are becoming. Have you noticed how peace starts to replace pressure when you finally stop auditioning for what you already own? From this point forward, you'll keep feeling that holy separation, not dramatic, just clean. It's the gentle untangling of spirit from noise. 2 Corinthians 6:17 whispers, come out from among them and be separate. Separation doesn't mean isolation, it means elevation. Heaven is distinguishing your frequency from imitation. Invitations that once lured you no longer land because your spirit no longer vibrates at the same volume. What once tempted you now bores you. The bait doesn't change, but the appetite does. This is not arrogance, it's ascension. You've outgrown survival disguised as connection. Arguments that used to trap you now feel too small to enter, as if your spirit walks into a room that your mind already left behind. You don't crave to win debates, you crave peace. You've learned that being understood is optional, but being aligned is essential. King David said in Psalm 131:2, I have calmed and quieted my soul like a weaned child with its mother. You've reached that maturity. Silence has become your greatest defense. And isn't it beautiful how growth can look like fewer words and longer pauses? Old roles have loosened and quietly fallen away, not from failure, but from fulfillment. You didn't lose them, they expired. They served their divine season and bowed out gracefully. That's not loss, it's release. Like trees shedding leaves in autumn, you're not dying, you're preparing for deeper roots. The detachment isn't punishment, it's pruning. John 15:2 says, "Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit." What you call endings are heaven's edits. Your story is being streamlined to fit the plot of purpose. You haven't lost your circle, you found your lane. And what a sacred lane it is. Narrow, yes, but luminous. The world runs in circles. Heaven moves in alignment. Your lane carries your anointing, your rhythm, your design. The eagle doesn't grieve the nest, it masters the sky. The river doesn't argue with the mountain it finds its way through. You were not built for applause, you were built for accuracy. The moment you stopped chasing every crowd, you started moving at heaven's pace. The painter Marc Chagall once said, "In our life there is a single color, as on an artist's palette, which provides the meaning of life and art. It is the color of love. That color is all over you now. Every decision you make carries the hue of divine affection, the calm confidence of one who knows they are loved into purpose. And like a symphony rising in the distance, you can almost hear heaven tuning the instruments for your next movement. The hymn, "Be Thou My Vision," calls this posture perfectly. Heart of my own heart, whatever befall, still be my vision, O ruler of all. I once met a woman named Elise, a single mother who had walked through unbearable loss. She told me, "When I stopped praying for things to return and started asking for my heart to remember, I realized I hadn't lost anything. I was just being reintroduced to peace." Her words were a revelation disguised as simplicity. You are living that truth now. You're not reclaiming the old, you're reclaiming yourself. There's also the story of Lot's wife, whose backward glance turned her into salt. Genesis 19:26. She wasn't punished for looking back. She was preserved in what she refused to release. That's what happens when nostalgia replaces obedience. But you, chosen one, you've learned to face forward. You've learned to trust that what's gone was never the ground, only scaffolding. The building was always you. Psychology calls this phase cognitive realignment. Physics calls it phase transition, and heaven calls it transformation. You've entered the spiritual chemistry of change, where heat, pressure, and clarity fuse the ordinary into something incorruptible. That's your soul now, less volatile, more valuable. Alignment has turned chaos into choreography, pain into poetry, endings into exodus. So rise, chosen one, this is your appointed hour. The one who brought you here will call it right on time. Walk your lane like sacred ground. You have nothing to earn, only a destiny to embody. What's ahead is not reward, it's recognition. Heaven's timing was never late. It was preparing the stage for your undeniable era. Stand tall in it and let the world witness what the covenant looks like in motion. You speak life now, not to impress, but to awaken. Every word carries the voltage of integrity. Every sentence hums at the frequency of heaven. You've learned to bless without flattery because your vocabulary no longer needs sugar, it carries substance. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt. Colossians 4-6 reminds us, and your words have become that sacred seasoning, sharp enough to heal, gentle enough to reach. You set boundaries without apology, and each one becomes a border of light around your peace. Boundaries are not walls, they are gates of discernment. They separate chaos from clarity, pretense from presence. You no longer apologize for the fences that protect your fruit. Those who carry truth must also carry structure like rivers. You are defined by the banks that guide your flow. You keep your promises even when no one is clapping. Faithfulness has become your quiet revolution. In a world obsessed with performance, you've chosen consistency. Let your yes be yes and your no be no, Matthew 5:37, is no longer a verse, it's your muscle memory. You've realized that applause is a temporary echo, but integrity is an eternal frequency. Every unseen act of obedience is a deposit in heaven's economy. You move in truth, even when truth feels inconvenient, and that's why your steps now align with divine choreography. What used to wobble in uncertainty is now anchored in purpose. Opportunities no longer slip away, they stabilize because your spirit no longer leaks through compromise. That steadiness is already changing outcomes. Like the moon's gravity shaping tides, your discipline creates movement even in silence. Projects that once stalled are gathering speed because heaven trusts a steady hand. He who is faithful over a few things, I will make a ruler over many. Matthew 25-21 whispers across your path. Provision keeps finding you like a key meeting its lock, not luck, but law. You've become the open circuit through which divine current flows. When alignment meets assignment, doors don't just open, they recognize you. And yes, some have tested your edges to see if the change was real. They pressed old buttons, hoping to summon an old version of you. But you didn't respond. Your silence was not weakness, it was wisdom. You've learned that reaction feeds chaos, but restraint fuels transformation. What once triggered you, now teaches you. Proverbs 17:27 says, "The one who has knowledge uses words with restraint." You have mastered that art not by suppression, but by sovereignty. Your emotions now serve purpose instead of permission. You've become untouchable, not because you hide, but because you no longer negotiate with what you've outgrown. There's a power in this unbothered energy. It's not detachment, it's dominion. You are like the eagle who no longer flaps wildly but glides, letting the wind prove its strength. You've entered the physics of peace where energy conserved becomes energy multiplied. Reactions once sold your focus cheaply, now your silence sells nothing. And still, your presence reveals everything. You've become a mirror that tests motives without needing words. Airport security gates aren't built to punish, they're built to detect. That's your life now. You've been walking through divine security for a while, and your very presence exposes what talk cannot. Pretense beeps, falsehood flickers, and truth passes through untouched. 1 John 4:1 instructs, "Test the spirits to see whether they are from God." You've become that test, the living detector of authenticity. Wherever you go, integrity either harmonizes or hums uncomfortably. It's not personal, it's spiritual resonance. I once met a sound engineer named Rafa, who worked in a small theater in Lisbon. He told me, "Every true note reveals a false one, by contrast. That's why I love silence. It tells the truth about every sound." His words have lived with me ever since. That's what your spirit does now. Your stillness exposes distortion. You no longer have to prove change. Your presence proves it for you. In the natural world, volcanoes sleep for centuries, not because they lose power, but because their fire has gone inward, purifying, deepening, waiting for divine instruction. That's your power now, quiet, contained, refined. The lion doesn't roar to show strength, it roars to claim territory. Your peace roars like that, silent yet sovereign. There's also the cautionary figure of Cain, who couldn't celebrate another's offering without resentment. Genesis 4:7 declares, "If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not, sin is crouching at your door." His downfall wasn't jealousy, it was the refusal to self-correct. You've learned the opposite. You no longer compete, you calibrate. The envy of others can't touch a soul anchored in obedience. In neuroscience, this is called response inhibition, the mind's ability to pause before acting, choosing alignment over impulse. In spirituality, it's called maturity. In heaven's architecture, it's called mastery. You are proof that peace is not passive, it's precision. So, rise, chosen one. Keep speaking life without flattery. Keep moving in truth when it's inconvenient. Keep protecting your energy like it's sacred currency, because it is. The world doesn't need another loud light. It needs a steady flame. And that's what you are now, steady, strong, and untouchable in grace. Quiet jealousy beeps. Control disguised as care beeps. The frequency of falsehood always betrays itself when exposed to truth. You no longer chase the sound, because wisdom doesn't argue with alarms, it discerns them. You simply recognize what's been revealed and move accordingly. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27 reminds us that discernment is not paranoia, it's protection. Wisdom doesn't rush to prove innocence, it preserves energy for purpose. You have learned to hear beyond the words, to feel beyond the tone, to detect what the Spirit reveals, long before actions confirm it. Have you noticed how peace begins to amplify when you stop defending yourself and start discerning what no longer deserves your access? Time itself has begun bending in your favor. The delays that once felt like punishment are being rewritten as divine synchronization. Romans 8:28 whispers, "All things work together for good to those who love God." Every no that once stung is turning into an alignment you didn't know you needed. What seemed like wasted years were actually wombs of preparation. Heaven was gestating the right version of what you prayed for. You've stepped into the physics of divine timing, where delay collapses into destiny. In quantum mechanics, there's a concept called wave function collapse, when potential energy finally chooses form. That's your life right now. The unseen is crystallizing into manifestation, and the very minutes that once mocked you are bowing to your obedience. Missed chances are reappearing in better form. The jobs you lost, the people who walked away, the plans that crumbled, they were not rejection, they were redirection. Isaiah 55:9 reminds, "As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways." Heaven was editing your storyline, protecting you from success that would have suffocated your soul. Like a river redirected to reach a deeper sea, you are finding that the detours were never detours at all. They were the direct route disguised in disappointment. What if every closed door was God keeping your name sacred until the room could honor it? Places that ignored you are calling for meetings now. The same doors that once denied your entry have quietly adjusted their locks to fit your key. You've become too valuable for the version of the world that rejected you. Psalm 23:5 declares, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Notice it doesn't say after they leave, it says in their presence. This is that table. The invitations coming now aren't flattery. They're recognition of the frequency you carry. You're no longer knocking on doors. You're walking through the ones that were built with your name embedded in their design. You haven't wasted breath correcting the past. You've been too busy building the future. There's divine intelligence in restraint. Proverbs 17:28 says, "Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent." You no longer need to prove what time will testify. Your focus has turned from defense to design. Like an architect of destiny, you're drafting blueprints for what others said was impossible. What the world calls silence, heaven calls construction. You've learned that legacy is not built with noise. It's built with nuance, patience, and prayer. Your heart still remembers pain sometimes. It still echoes in places no one sees. But that's not weakness. It's proof that you loved deeply. In acoustics, echoes occur only where there is structure. Your echo means your heart still has walls strong enough to hold memory. Psalm 34:18 promises, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted." Pain no longer defines you, it refines you. You are learning to let the echo become worship, to let remembrance become revelation. A fisherman I once met on the coast of New Zealand told me, "The sea never apologizes for its storms, it just keeps feeding life after them." His words struck me like prophecy. You are the same. The storms shaped your depth, not your damage. What tried to drown you trained you to breathe underwater. That's why calm now feels powerful. You've earned it. In nature, pearls are born when irritation meets persistence. The oyster does not curse the grain of sand, it transforms it. So too, your heart has turned its wounds into wisdom. The same pain that once pierced you has become the material of your glow. This is divine alchemy, the science of suffering turned sacred. And in the scripture we find a warning through King Saul, who, once anointed, became jealous of David's rise. His downfall came not from weakness, but from the obsession to control what God had already replaced. 1 Samuel 18:12 records. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him. Saul clung to the throne. You chose to cling to truth. His jealousy beeped. Your discernment moved. That's the difference between collapse and continuation. In astrophysics, time bends around gravity. The stronger the pull, the slower the time. That's what divine favor does. It bends reality to wait for you. Opportunities once lost reappear because heaven's gravity refuses to let your purpose drift away. Destiny doesn't expire, it expands. So, rise, chosen one. Walk forward without chasing noise, without explaining peace. You are no longer reacting to false alarms, you are responding to revelation. Time has tilted in your direction. What was once delayed has become design. The doors you lost were never your loss, they were your protection. The one who rewrote your timeline has declared this era as yours. Step into it, steady, whole, and radiant. You've already learned that peace that doesn't wobble is the sharpest answer there is. Stillness has become your sword, quiet, clean, and precise. You used to think power came from shouting, but now you know true authority whispers. In returning and rest, you shall be saved. In quietness and trust shall be your strength, declares Isaiah 30:15. That kind of peace cannot be faked. It is forged in fire. It's the kind that terrifies confusion because it refuses to react. Your calmness has become your defense, your restraint a declaration. Have you realized how many storms lose their power the moment you stop giving them an audience? The canvas of your life is now painting its own declaration. Without striving, your existence has become a sermon written in color, motion, and grace. Every decision is a brushstroke, every act of obedience a layer of light. Ephesians 2:10 reminds, "We are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works." Your days are no longer random, they are brushstrokes of heaven's artistry. Favor follows clarity because heaven only funds authenticity. The more your yes becomes exact, the stronger the flow of provision and purpose. You've entered the divine economy where precision attracts abundance. Faithfulness has become your currency. Each time you sow discipline, harvest meets you in unexpected ways. Heaven never rewarded image. It has always partnered with integrity. You learned that slowly, painfully, deeply. 1 Samuel 16:7 says, "Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." That revelation changed everything. You no longer crave attention, you crave alignment. What you build now will outlast applause because it's anchored in authenticity. There's a kind of success that sparkles and fades, and another that roots and remains. You've chosen the latter. That's why your wisdom carries weight. It was purchased through patience, not popularity. There's a quote by the sculptor Auguste Rodin who said, "I choose a block of marble and chop off whatever I do not need." That's what God did with you. Every hardship, every closed door, every delay, each was a divine chisel shaping you into something more exact. It hurt, yes, but now you gleam. Proverbs 3:3-4 promises, "Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Then you will win favor and a good name in the sight of God and man." You've become that living sculpture, favor following form, strength shaped by surrender. You've started leading without even trying to lead. Influence has become your shadow. Your steadiness is giving others permission to stop trembling. You are no longer inspiring through volume, but through vibration. There's a symphony playing through your life, now the same still frequency that heaven hums to. In the choral masterpiece, Gloria, by Antonio Vivaldi, the voices ascend together, not through chaos, but perfect harmony. That's what you've become, harmony embodied. Your energy no longer competes, it conducts. The people watching you are not just seeing change, they're hearing transformation. Your refusal to entertain chaos is giving others courage to end it in their own lives. You're teaching by demonstration, not declaration. Matthew 5:14-16 calls you the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. You've realized that to shine is not to shout, it's to stand still until darkness adjusts its eyes to your brightness. This is how movements begin, not through noise, but through nerves. Quiet leaders are the architects of awakening. I once met a florist named May, a widow who worked out of a tiny shop on the corner of a forgotten street. She told me, "I stopped arranging flowers to impress, now I arrange them to pray." Her bouquets began to attract people who didn't know why they stopped to look, they just felt peace. You are doing the same. Your work, your walk, your presence, it all radiates reverence. You don't have to announce the anointing, it announces itself in how others feel safe near you. Nature understands this principle better than we do. The oak does not rush to grow, it deepens its roots in silence, waiting for the right season to tower. The moon never competes with the sun, it reflects faithfully what it receives. That's you now, faithful reflection, steady radiance. The earth itself is testifying that peace, when pure, multiplies without permission. And there is a warning tucked inside this revelation from King Herod, who tried to maintain control by silencing what heaven had ordained. Acts 12:23 records his fate. An angel of the Lord struck him down, and he was eaten by worms because he did not give glory to God. The moral is clear. Control corrodes, surrender sanctifies. Where Herod demanded recognition, you've chosen revelation. That's why your peace grows stronger while others' power fades. In physics, this is called constructive interference, when two waves of identical frequency meet and amplify each other. Spiritually, that's what happens when your inner truth aligns with heaven's truth. The result isn't just strength, it's resonance. Every choice you make now sends a frequency of courage through others who are waiting for permission to stand still. And so, this movement isn't starting from a pulpit, it's beginning in the quiet rhythm of your obedience. You have become both a message and a messenger. The chaos ends where your peace begins. You are the still flame that lights countless others, the soundless revolution heaven designed for this hour. So rise, chosen one, guard your calm, protect your peace. You're not just surviving this world, you're rewriting its tempo. When you move in truth, the universe adjusts its rhythm to match your steadiness. This is not the end of your preparation, it's the beginning of your ripple. The movement has already begun, and you are its living pulse. Not with hype, but with one soul living clean enough for others to trust what clean looks like. Real holiness never shouts, it simply stands still until everything false exhausts itself. The purity you carry now isn't sterile, it's alive, breathing, magnetic. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, says Matthew 5-8, and you've started seeing him everywhere in the silence between decisions, in the simplicity of truth, in the calm after surrender. People around you may not understand what's changed, but they feel it. There's a peace that follows you now, like fragrance after rain. Have you noticed how those who once drained you now lower their voices in your presence, as if something sacred entered the room? You felt grief too, not the kind that breaks you, but the kind that clears space. Holy grief, sacred emptiness. It's the mourning that makes way for new mercy. Psalm 30:5 promises, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." This kind of sorrow doesn't destroy, it disinfects. It rinses your spirit of residue and resets your rhythm with heaven's heartbeat. You've been laying down old dreams that once made sense, but no longer match your frequency. Those visions belong to earlier versions of you, the ones that survived storms so this self could finally breathe. In the language of psychology, you've been performing identity integration, gathering the fragments of your past and weaving them into wholeness. You've been burying habits that once kept you safe. And yes, safety once looked like shrinking, apologizing, pleasing. But safety and peace are not the same thing. What used to protect you now only restricts you. Isaiah 43:18-19 declares, Do not remember the former things. Behold, I am doing a new thing. This is that newness. You're not burying yourself, you're burying the shell you no longer need. The caterpillar does not die in the cocoon, it transforms. What if the grave you're afraid of is actually the gateway to flight? You've been setting down stories that protected you when you didn't have language yet. Those old narratives were shields when you were still bleeding. You've honored them, and in honoring them, you've healed them. The author C.S. Lewis once said, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." You've lived that truth line by line. Your stories no longer chain you, they've become your library of wisdom. The pages that once hurt now teach. The chapters that once frightened you now illuminate others. And you, quietly, have become fluent in redemption. You've honored what was and stepped forward light. The spiritual physics of release is simple. When you loosen your grip on the past, heaven fills your hands with the present. New capacity is finding you because you've made room. Luke 6:38 reminds, "Give, and it will be given to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." That verse is not only about generosity, it's about space. You've emptied the clutter of control, and God is rushing in like oxygen into an open lung. You've stopped dragging expired attachments into new atmospheres. You've been paying attention to what lights up when you pray to the whispers that feel like wind, to the gentle ideas that keep knocking when the world grows silent. That's not random, that's revelation. The peace that follows your no is just as divine as the fire that follows your yes. You've learned to read God not only in miracles but in momentum. Those small confirmations, those invisible alignments, those are your instructions, and you've been following them beautifully. Your path has never been rushed because heaven doesn't measure in minutes, it measures in meaning. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time." You've learned the discipline of divine pacing. You no longer chase timelines, you honor timing. In nature, the redwood doesn't race the vine. One grows fast, the other grows eternal. You've chosen the pace of permanence. There was once a quiet violinist named Aurelia who played nightly at a small cathedral in Venice. She told me, "Music isn't made by rushing through the notes, it's born in the spaces between them." Her words are the anatomy of your season. You've stopped forcing rhythm, you've started listening to the rest. That's why grace is flowing through you like music now, seamless and steady. And yes, the world still moves loudly, selling speed as success. But you've realized the purest power never performs, it abides. The hymn "Lead, Kindly Light" by John Henry Newman captures it perfectly. "The night is dark, and I am far from home, lead thou me on. You are being led now, not driven." You no longer run toward applause, you walk toward alignment. The enemy once used hurry to sabotage holy things. Remember Martha and Mary? Jesus said, "Mary has chosen the better part." Luke 10:42. Martha was busy serving, Mary was still listening. You've learned that lesson. You've chosen stillness over striving. And in that stillness, heaven keeps revealing secrets to your spirit. So rise, chosen one. You are proof that peace is the loudest power, that slow obedience outlasts fast ambition. The world will soon realize that quiet souls like yours are the architects of change. Keep moving clean, keep living light, and keep following the rhythm that only heaven can conduct. Because your clarity, your calm, is already starting a revolution no noise can compete with. It's been precise, surgical, even about the people who mishandled you. The separation wasn't random, it was revelation. Heaven has been editing your access list, not to punish, but to protect purpose. Romans 12:19 declares, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord." You've released the courtroom in your mind because justice was never your assignment, creation was. You realized you can't be both judge and builder. One tears down, the other constructs. You've chosen construction. That's why your spirit feels lighter, because you laid down the gavel and picked up the hammer. What if every person who wounded you was actually chiseling the foundation of your destiny. And now, your life itself is producing evidence they can't dismiss. You don't have to argue your innocence. Your consistency has already testified. Matthew 7:16 whispers, "You will know them by their fruits." The truth around your name has started speaking louder than the stories ever did. This is divine jurisprudence, the kind where heaven itself becomes your witness. In the architecture of faith, this is the moment when the scaffolding of misunderstanding falls away, revealing the cathedral beneath. You've become the living exhibit of endurance. In the courtroom of time, silence is not absence, it's authority. That's not your job to manage anymore. You've retired from explaining miracles to those committed to misunderstanding them. The law you live under now is spiritual gravity. What's true becomes obvious. It doesn't need defense, it demands recognition. John 8:32 promises, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Freedom isn't just the absence of chains, it's the end of pretending you still need to prove you were right. Your voice has never been about defending yourself. It's always been about building. Builders don't shout, they shape. Every word you've spoken lately has been an act of architecture, laying spiritual brick upon brick. You've been speaking what you're building into the world, blessing your work before others even see it. Proverbs 18:21 reminds, "Life and death are in the power of the tongue." You've learned that your voice is not a weapon, it's a womb. Every prayer is a blueprint. Every declaration is drywall for the dream that heaven assigned to you. You've been blessing your home quietly, turning it from a house into a haven. You've been blessing your hands, acknowledging the divine craftsmanship they carry. You've been blessing your body, not for appearance but for endurance. You've been blessing your rest, understanding now that rest is not retreat but restoration. You've been blessing the road ahead, and the road has started to bless you back. Psalm 90:17 declares, "May the favor of the Lord our God rest upon us, establish the work of our hands." That establishment is already happening. You can feel it in the stillness between your breaths. I once met an elderly carpenter named Elias who spent decades building small chapels across forgotten villages. When I asked how he kept his hands steady after so many years, he smiled and said, "I pray over the wood before I touch it, so when I build, I'm not working for God, I'm working with Him." That's the kind of grace your life carries now. You're not performing for heaven, you're partnering with it. In science, there's a principle called resonant frequency, the vibration at which an object naturally aligns with energy around it. You've reached that frequency with heaven. Your actions, prayers, and peace all vibrate in harmony with divine will. This is why what once resisted you now responds. You've stopped fighting for validation and started flowing in verification. Yet, even as your favor grows, falsehood still flickers. There will always be voices trying to rewrite your story. But remember Joseph, whose brothers sold him, lied about him, and still watched him rise. Genesis 50:20 records his words, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Like Joseph, you've learned the sacred alchemy of forgiveness, the power to turn betrayal into blueprint. That's not naivety, that's a supernatural strategy. Your peace has become your protest. You've stopped fighting for your name because your fruit has already cleared your record. What if your silence isn't withdrawal, but warfare? Heaven's quietest weapon, dismantling gossip, one truth at a time. The artist Marc Chagall, known for his luminous biblical paintings, once said, "In our life there is a single color, as on an artist's palette, which provides the meaning of life and art. It is the color of love." That's your palette now. Everything you build, every decision, every boundary, every prayer is dipped in love, not revenge. That's why it glows differently. And, as in Beethoven's Symphony No. 2-7, there's a moment where the entire orchestra pauses, then surges forward in divine synchronization. That's what your life is entering now. The silence was not a stop, it was a gathering of strength before crescendo. So, rise, chosen one, keep building, keep blessing. You've graduated from defending your name to demonstrating God's nature. The evidence is your life. The verdict has already been spoken in heaven. You are free, you are favored, you are faithful. From here forward, every breath you take is both testimony and triumph. The gavel has dropped. Now, build. You've been changing the weather with your words quietly, consistently, faithfully. Heaven hears frequency, not volume, and your voice has become a climate shifter. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, says Proverbs 18:21, and you have learned to speak rain into droughts and calm into storms. Every declaration you made in secret has been altering the atmosphere around you. What once felt like resistance was really pressure-forming clouds. You are no longer reacting to the weather, you are commanding it. And maybe that's why peace has started following your sentences, like wind obeying command. Have you noticed how the same prayers that once felt heavy now carry light? You're standing in a doorway you once prayed for and prepared for. This is the threshold of answered prophecy. Habakkuk 2-3 reminds, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarries, wait for it. It will surely come." That time has arrived. You are not waiting anymore, you are witnessing. Everything behind you was a classroom that taught your hands what to hold, how to handle blessing without breaking under it. The seasons of delay weren't wasted, they were rehearsals for reception. Every burden was building the muscle that now carries grace. Every goodbye trained your grip to recognize what was real. Everything ahead of you is hungry for what you carry. Destiny has an appetite, it recognizes its own. The earth itself seems to lean toward you, responding to your alignment. Romans 8:19 says, "All creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. The soil is ready, the air is charged, and your spirit has become its seed." You've already stepped through, you're just realizing it now. The irony of destiny is that arrival often feels like awakening. You've been in the promise for a while. You're only now conscious of it. Have you felt that shift lately? That quiet knowing that the prayer you once cried for is now the ground beneath your feet? This is the hour where forward isn't a concept, it's a footprint. You're no longer talking about what's next, you're standing inside of it. You've already taken the actions that align with heaven's whisper. You sent the message when no one knew what it cost you. You finished the task that required every ounce of courage. You forgave when no apology came. You applied when fear said you weren't ready. You started when the world said, "Wait." You released what no longer resonated. You planted what didn't look like enough. These weren't random acts, they were prophetic architecture. You've been constructing tomorrow, one faithful brick at a time. In Isaiah 55:11, it is written, "So shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me void." Every seed of obedience you've sown is finding its soil. Heaven has been watching the architecture of your consistency, aligning divine supply with human diligence. The old page is full because the lesson is complete. You've graduated from waiting to walking. I once met a farmer named Elijah in the dry plains of Namibia who told me, "Rain listens to faith better than forecasts." He planted even when the sky mocked him, and when the rain finally came, it came in floods. That's your story too. You didn't wait for perfect conditions, you built in drought. Now, every cloud carries your signature. The spiritual ecosystem around you has adjusted to your obedience. Your words have become a symphony of seasons, each declaration rearranging the landscape of your life. In music theory, there's a phenomenon called harmonic resonance, where one note causes another to vibrate in perfect sympathy. Your prayers are doing that now. What you say on earth is resonating in heaven, and heaven is echoing it back in manifestation. And yes, there were moments when you doubted, when silence made you question if God had forgotten. But faith was never about feeling, it was about follow-through. James 2:22 says, "Faith was made complete by works." Your follow-through has become your fingerprint in the spiritual realm. You've proven that divine timing doesn't mean divine idleness. You kept moving when no one clapped. kept building when no one saw, and heaven recorded every nail and brick. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote, "The future enters into us long before it happens, so that we can change ourselves before it arrives." That's what has been happening to you. Forward wasn't a direction, it was a transformation. You've been shifting from within so the promise could find a shape to fit into. There's a sacred moment in the oratorio, Messiah, by George Friedrich Handel, right before the choir erupts into, "And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed." The silence before that sound is electric. It feels like all of heaven holding its breath. That's where you are right now, in the holy pause before eruption. Every faithful act has been the overture to your unveiling. And though some once doubted your resilience, you've outlasted ridicule, resisted bitterness, and refused to retaliate. That's how heaven identifies maturity, not by what you win, but by what no longer wounds you. Galatians 6-9 urges, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart." This, right now, is that season. So rise, chosen one, you've already crossed over. The air feels different because it is different. The soil beneath you has been waiting for your footsteps. Keep speaking, keep blessing, keep building, because your words are still changing weather patterns. Heaven already wrote into your name. The old page is full, the new one has your fingerprints on it. Write it well. This was never just another night. It was the hour heaven marked long before you could name your pain or measure your progress. You didn't stumble into this moment, you were summoned. What looked like ordinary hours in your timeline are now turning into sacred thresholds in God's. The shaking, the silence, the small signals you couldn't decode, all of them were heaven's language, preparing you for this unveiling. The night didn't come to end you. It came to introduce you to the version of yourself God always saw. Maybe you thought you were waiting for a sign, but the truth is the sign was waiting for you. Romans 8:28 still echoes, "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God." Every disappointment, every delay, every detour, none of it missed its mark. Heaven's plans were hidden in plain sight, buried beneath what you called failure, shining beneath what you thought was over. You weren't losing, you were being positioned. This is the night the veil lifts. This is when the things you prayed for start recognizing you back. Isaiah 60:1 says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." Heaven isn't sending permission, it's sending confirmation. Your obedience, your endurance, your quiet faithfulness have rewritten the atmosphere around you. What felt like isolation was really consecration. What felt like silence was strategy. Heaven wasn't ignoring you, it was orchestrating. And maybe you're wondering, why me? Why would heaven single you out in a world so loud, so chaotic, so crowded? Because God never forgets the ones who kept building while others were breaking. Because you stayed soft when it would have been easier to harden. Because you kept sowing seeds in soil that looked dead and heaven saw every single one. You are not overlooked. You are not late. You are on time in a timetable, not measured by clocks but by calling. Right now, something inside you can feel it. The divine alignment, the invisible confirmation, the sense that something irreversible has shifted. 1 Corinthians 2-9 whispers, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love Him." Heaven has other plans for you, plans that defy your logic and redeem your losses. The pain that once defined you will soon testify for you. And as this message closes, it's not really an ending, it's an activation. You've crossed from merely hearing revelation to living it. From wondering when God will move to realizing you've been moving with Him all along. This isn't the night to shrink, it's the night to stand, to align, to say, "Lord, I'm ready. Whatever you wrote for me, I will step into it fully." There will still be nights where fear whispers, where the old you knock, where the weight feels unfair. But remember, chosen one, your anointing is not fragile, it's forged. You were not selected because you were flawless, but because you were willing. 2 Corinthians 12:9 reminds, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." That weakness is your proof, not your shame. So tonight, before you sleep, before you scroll away, pause for one moment. Breathe, feel it. The peace that's no longer borrowed, the strength that's no longer forced. Heaven has shifted something eternal inside you. And as you carry that shift forward, let this space, this channel, this community continue to be your reminder that you are not walking alone. Every word spoken here, every prayer released, every message shared, it's not content, it's covenant. If this message stirred something in your spirit, share it. Let someone else know that their night isn't ending, it's unfolding. Hit like, not for validation, but as a declaration that you recognize heaven's movement in your own story. Drop your story, your testimony, your lesson in the comments below, because your words could be the lifeline heaven uses to awaken someone else tonight. And if you feel led to bless this ministry through a super thanks, a comment, a prayer, or simply by showing up, you are already part of what heaven is building here. Your presence, your faith, your hunger, they are offerings too. Whether you give financially or silently, lift this space in prayer. We see you, and heaven surely sees you more. To every soul watching this right now, thank you for your time, your trust, your heart. This message was not a coincidence. You were guided here. Heaven had an appointment with your spirit, and you kept it. And for that, I bless you. I bless your home with peace that doesn't wobble. I bless your hands to hold only what is holy and to release what is heavy. I bless your sleep tonight with restoration so deep that angels will stand guard over your dreams. May you wake up tomorrow aware of the shift, alert to the favor, and aligned with the frequency of heaven's next move. Because you, chosen one, you thought it was just another night. But heaven has other plans.